Issy Sharp, founder and medium-sized concept hotels in the world. How a small hotel job in 1955, a lot of passion, belief, and perseverance turned into a world-class quality service. Four Seasons Destination Destiny. Mr. Sharp discusses with Pie Digest about conviction, courage, support, good management, innovation, being the first, and common sense.
Besides the financial part of it initially, what kind of difficulties did you face to launch hotels?
Well, financially, that was the most difficult, is to raise the money to convince people that this would work. Fortunately, it succeeded, almost from day one. So the difficulty was the 5 years I spent, knocking on doors with much rejections and skepticism.
Mm-hmm.
Of people said, you don't know anything about this business, and why in the world would I give you money
right.
to build it? So those 5 years were the difficult times. But I just, to me, it was obvious that this should work. And that's really how things, when you have a passion about something, it allows you to persevere. And the combination of the belief, passion, and perseverance usually ends up in something that might be different, but it clearly is something you believe will work, and it did.
I'm sure that there have been ebbs and flows in the tourism industry. How did you deal with that?
Well, over the history of the company, there's been many, and at each time you had to decide how to manage to get through those. I guess in business, the only issues that cause you to either change course and, miss the opportunities or have difficulty surviving are when you have a financial commitment that you cannot meet. Usually if you got a business that's running and you can manage to get through the downturns, the recessions, by meeting your obligations, even though you might not be making any or as much money, you can still survive. But if you have a financial problem that you cannot live up to, that puts you out of business. So I guess maybe the first major one that caused the company and myself problem that we might not get over was in 1981. Now remember, the first hotel opened in 1961. It wasn't until the third hotel in 1970 that I then decided I was going to make the hotel industry a career. So if you think of the timeline, I built the first motel for a friend in 1955, which gave me the idea that I should try one on my own. It wasn't until 15 years later, after the third hotel that I built in London, England, that I decided I was going to maybe change course and look to the hotel industry as a possible career. So that started me down making new deals and building more hotels. So it was in 1981 when interest rates went from 8 to 10 to 22%. And I, at that time, had, arranged borrowings with the bank, and which was, normal, but was considerable for my, abilities. And they, of course, call you up and say, look, what works at 8%, does it work at 20? And I said, of course not. And they said, well, you better come down here. We should talk about it. In meeting with the bank, they obviously were looking to me, how are you going to manage to pay down this money you owe us? And I said, well, clearly I can't pay you down now because we've got this additional cost. And what I need you to do is to lend me more money to cover the extra interest cost. Well, they were a bit astounded. They said, that's a ridiculous request. We're asked you to come down here to tell us how you're going to manage the money you already owe us, and there's no way you have the collateral to increase your loan. Put a proposal in front of me that if you believe this is something that's going to pass, then you pledge all what you own, your shares of the company and whatever assets you have as collateral. And at that time, we had a small house we had bought. And I said that, look, I'm not borrowing the money. It's the company's borrowing the money. You're asking me to personally give you whatever assets I have. And they said, I know, but that's the only way we're prepared to consider what you've asked. So at that time, lawyers, accountants advise you to say, look, just play hardball. There's no way that they're not going to have to support you because they're not going to take over the hotel. This is the way banks deal. Just play hardball. Just say no. Well, I didn't listen to my own lawyers and accountants. I went back to the bank and said, look, I'm prepared to do what you've asked, providing you guarantee me that you will continue to lend me the money to cover this extra cost, as long as it might take, and then I will be able to pay you back all the extra money I've borrowed. Well, that was the deal we made. So, again, this is the belief that what you have will work. And therefore, Rosalie never questioned, so we had a little money invested in the house, and whatever stock I owned, I pledged to the bank. But I did believe that this interest rates would have to come down, and the bank knew that. And that once it came down, we had a good business that we would be able to pay back all this extra money, which we did. So it goes along with what I said before. If you have the conviction and the belief in something, then it gives you the courage to be able to back it.
You've probably met a lot of fellow hotel managers and hotel CEOs along the way, I'm sure, people who do similar things as you. What do you all have in common in terms of your key to success is?
Well, you have to remember, I'm not a hotel manager. I run a business of hotels, meaning my role within that is to decide what and how to operate, what to build and how to operate.
Okay.
But my role is making more business deals. So my, call it expertise, is understanding what I thought I and the company could do best, which at a point in time decided that we would specialize. So my role is, as a business person, developing hotels of a certain caliber and a type.
Mm-hmm.
So my concepts were very different than the general hotel industry.
Okay.
Because at a point in time, when I decided that I was going to make this a career, I also decided that at that point, and this is 1970, 72, I guess, that we would only operate medium-sized hotels of exceptional quality, and we're going to try to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
I came to that conclusion. If you look at the first part of what I said, to say we're only going to specialize and operate one type of hotel, that's no big deal. But to say we're going to be the best, that we only had 3 hotels, and that's a stretch. But I said it based upon what we had already achieved. Those 3 hotels, the Toronto Four Seasons Motor Hotel, the Inn in the Park, and in the Inn in the Park, London, each were considered the best. We won after opening the Inn in the Park in London. Again, that was a 5-year journey. We won the award of the first year of being the best hotel in Europe and the best hotel in the UK.
Mm.
So when I said that we were going to try to be the best, it was based upon the experience that I already had, and I understood what made us win those awards. So my approach to the industry was very different than what the general understanding of the industry was all about. Because as you see the industry today, it's a conglomeration of hotel companies that run many different levels and many different brands, from the low-end budget to the high-end five-star. Whereas Four Seasons set the course to only operate one type of hotel, and I thought that if we were going to specialize, we should be better at it than others who did not. And
what does that mean tangibly? Like one or two things that would have made you the best?
What made us the best was, yes, we could build the nicest and, up-to-date new hotels as well as anybody else. But what made us the best was the way we dealt with our customers, the service side of the business, the approach to people. Because in order to make us the best, I decided it wasn't going to be through the architecture or decor, but it was going to be through the quality of our service. So we were going to make our service so much better than our competitors that it would become a competitive advantage and would distinguish Four Seasons from the other hotel companies. So these were all set out as objectives. When I decided, if we reconstruct the history of the company, there were four key strategic decisions that were made over a 25-year period. Each one was in support of the one before. So when I said we're going to try to be the best, that was the first key strategic decision. The next was when I said we're going to make our service our competitive advantage. That is how we were going to become the best. In order to achieve that, we had to create a workforce and an environment that allowed our employees to be able to rise to a level that they, in turn, would make sure the customers were going to get this very special quality of service. So we had to give our employees what they needed to do that. And that was the third key decision, where we decided on an ethical credo of the Golden Rule. But that's when we decided that that's the way we were going to treat our employees, based upon that one most profound statement, the Golden Rule.
Yep.
And that really was the most, if you look at the history, the most important single decision the company has ever made. So these are decisions I made over the periods of time, looking to accomplish what I thought the way we could compete. Because we were competing in a very huge industry that was very competitive with major companies that, had the power of size. So our approach was to distinguish ourselves by being different. And over the history of the company, it worked. Deciding, could we create a highly motivated, competent workforce based upon an ethical credo? Could we? So at that point in time, that's a theory. But over the next 25 years, the people in this company, by acting on that very simple statement of the Golden Rule, behavior, that theory has become a fact. It is no longer a question of whether treating people in that manner can accomplish what we did. It's a proven fact. And today, with 45,000 employees, 98% of them probably understand and believe that that works, and they have benefited from it as a way of life.
What's the difference between a good manager and a great manager?
Managers are reaching their positions through promotions. They do a good job, and their superior gives them a promotion to eventually they become a general manager, all the way through the ranks of their career, climbing up that ladder. But every time they get a promotion, it's because their superior understands they've earned it, and now is giving them that job. So each time they get a promotion, they are now in charge with the people who they have been charged with to direct. Well, for those people, they look at this new person who's now their boss, and whether it's a general manager or another level, that's their boss. From their point of view, he's been anointed. They don't know anything about him or her. So for a manager to move from being just a good manager to what you classify as a great manager, they have to be able to earn the respect and trust of the people that they are now in charge of.
Mm.
And that only happens over a period of time. So when you've reached that level of people believe in you and trust you, you now have influence. So rather than as the boss, they will do as you say because you're the boss, they will do what you ask of them because of the respect they have for you and the trust they have in you. And you can get people to go way beyond what they might believe of themselves when you have that influence. And that then moves you from just being a manager and a boss to what I call a leader. Because leaders get people, what they do, they unite, direct, and motivate.
Mm.
And they get people to work together to accomplish much more than individuals might think they can do of themselves. So that's the difference. A great manager is a leader.
Mm-hmm. Investing so much time in thriving businesses, did you find it hard to balance family?
Yes, that's always something that, you never can end up doing both the best way you can think in hindsight. So fortunately, I was married to, Rosalie, a wife that really took on the burden and the task of making up for what I didn't do. So I left a lot of my early years in family life, raising kids, that expression on the cutting room floor.
Hmm.
I wasn't there. I didn't look after my end of the bargain as well as I should have. But fortunately, a partner picked up all the things that I didn't do and did them so well that our children ended up as good as we could ever expect.
Hmm.
So, but those are things you can't go back and do things. You only have one chance.
Sure.
At every point in time. So it's only in hindsight when you think maybe I should have, but I didn't. So it's a myth when they use the expression the self-made man or woman. Nobody accomplishes everything on their own. It's always with the support that you get, and many times it's that invisible hand. And I know today I would never have accomplished in being where I am today had I not had the support of my wife.
Mm-hmm. It takes two.
It takes two to make a village.
Is there something creative that you could come up with that you had to be particularly resourceful with in order to move the business in a new, better direction? Ideas
come forth, and you don't know why. I'm sure there's a series of experiences in the past, or your mind works in a certain way. So my approach to the hotel industry was very simple. I looked at what would consider to be of importance?
Mm.
What would they value? So all the things that I did in the development of a hotel from day one until today was always, being innovative in ideas that would be trying to build value from a customer's needs. Over the years, there's been, 30, 40 different things that we did at the company that not having experience in the hotel business, I didn't think that these were things that, like many people in the industry who, were experienced and understood it, were very critical of the things that I started because they said it'll never work.
Like what?
Well, we were the first company to put shampoo in the bathroom. We put large bars of soap, large cotton towels, 2 telephone lines, very good mattresses. We were the first company to put a fitness facility in the hotel, 24-hour room service, no housekeeping carts to mess up the corridors, concierge bathrobes. Many firsts, all of these things that I've mentioned, have all been adopted by all the other hotels. So they're becoming a norm in the industry. Like we were the first to put bathrobes in the bedrooms. And people said, how can you possibly do that? The people are going to steal them. And I said, yeah, you're probably right. So what I did was put a little note in the pocket of the bathroom, which indicated if you wish to purchase one of these, please notify room service and they will send one up. So yes, a lot of people did steal them, but as many people bought them. So we covered our cost.
Sure.
Well, today, I think every budget hotel has a bathroom in the bedroom. So these are things that would add value from a customer's travels when they're away from their office and home. They're just common sense. Something you might even know. When we built the first motor hotel on Jarvis Street, and it was built around a courtyard with a swimming pool and a garden concept. And I noticed in the swimming pool, it was just a normal swimming pool. Everybody sort of stood in the one end of the pool, and then the odd people were swimming, and then kids were diving in at the other end. So I called the parks commissioner and asked him, in your city parks where you have public swimming pools, do everybody just stand at one end of them? And he said, of course. That's the only place they can stand. So in building the second hotel, the Inn on the Park, I built an all-shallow pool. So the low end, deep end was no more than 4.5 feet. And beside it, I built another pool that was for diving only. Well, today, I don't think anybody builds a pool that isn't an all-shallow pool.
Right.
Because it just made more common sense. But why have a pool that only 10 feet of it gets used? So those are the principles of thinking of, what makes good common sense. It's definitely thinking of ways that you will be able to be competitive. So these are all innovations. Because the hotel industry has been around for 1,000 years.
Sure.
So as a company, what I was able to do, not being groomed to be a hotelier, was to think of ways to be innovative. So most of the things that we've thought about and done, whether it's the design of the bedroom or overnight dry cleaning and pressing.
I love that, by the way.
Yeah. So these are all things that now hotels have adopted as part of the normal services, which is good.
What would you tell someone today if they said, I want to open a hotel?
Well, you have to be able to know what you're going to do to be competitive. It's not an easy business to get into because the scale of major companies, there's mergers going on all the time and companies are getting bigger and stronger. But like everything else, it's possible and people are doing it.
Do you remember the best business advice you ever got?
I'm not sure it's the best, but it's one that I've kept in mind that was from a very successful English businessman who I was dealing with at one time because he built a hotel and got into trouble, and we were asked by the bank to go and see if we could help him, which we did. And his name was Sir Oliver Simmons. And in the course of negotiating with him to help him, he came up with an expression that I always remembered. And he said, it's a good thing to know in negotiating. Know what you want, ask for it, and then make sure you get it. So the negotiation, it's always important to get the points that are crucial to you, but also to understand what are the crucial points to the other person. And you have to be able to come to the middle on both. That both parties have to get what they believe is important to them.
Sure.
So you have to make sure you identify that and then make sure you get it.
Do you believe that to every generation, entrepreneurship is different?
Well, of course, the generations are dealing with very different circumstances. You know, today, with technology and what it's accomplished in science, medicine, business, I mean, consider the men. There's a great documentary, and it's about the men who built America. It's about Vanderbilt, Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, Carnegie, and Ford. Now, these were brilliant, very hard-working entrepreneurs, extraordinary visionaries. Well, they dealt with what they had before there was, they built the railroads, they built the shipping, they built oil and gas, they did everything. Well, they did what they saw the future could use, just as Steve Jobs could see what technology could do with communicating with the iPhone. So this will continue. Times give us more information, and with that information and understanding, we can do things that have yet to be done. So no, I think entrepreneurs are the same. They deal with the times at hand. And whether they're the millennium, being able to become multi-billionaires over 2 short years because somebody thinks their idea is going to work. That's the difference that exists today. I don't know if that'll continue that way.
Tell me about your current involvement with Four Seasons.
Well, as you know, I've always controlled the company, so when I decided to give up the CEO role, I carved out what I would want to continue doing as chairman. So the things that I've done from day one, which were to deal with the aesthetics and concepts of what we build and what we continue to improve, I still approve all of that. And the fact that I've always been more like a statesman, I continue to visit hotels on a reduced scale, but as I have always done. And I do that. I meet with the general staff, meet with the people, and share with them like a State of the Union address. And I still retain a role that deals with preserving our partnership arrangements with our existing partners, and also when we are making new deals with new partners to make sure that they all want to meet. And I will continue to do that. And we, as a normal course of habit, what we've done from the last 30, 40 years, is we will still host and have people who are visiting Toronto for business purposes. We will usually have a dinner for them at our home on a more personal, social level. So that's to preserve the relationships that have been built over 50 years, that we continue to keep building those. So I act as you might say, a goodwill ambassador. But as a founder, you speak from a very different pulpit. There will be many senior people in this company. many different CEOs. But there's only one founder, so you have a position that you can fill that nobody else can. Mm-hmm. And that's the role I play today.
I like his business advice. It's a good thing to know in negotiating. Know what you want, ask for it, and get it. To read more about Issy Sharp, check out Pie Digest Part 3, the Bill Murray cover, on piemediagroup.com. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.